Hello and welcome to this video on the RC Biker channel. Please make sure you hit that red subscribe button down below to join in with more RC content coming on a regular basis. And of course, if you have an interest in motorcycles, we upload content here on the channel on those as well. So in this video, we're going to be talking about the common RC, particularly Nitro, beginners' mistakes, the mistakes that people constantly email and message me about, and the things that you want to try and avoid when you get to your first Nitro RC car. So in this video we're going to be featuring the Nanda Racing MB5 buggy. It's a 1/8 scale buggy with SH21 engine. It's a relatively beginner friendly buggy featuring no advanced components, pretty easy to start, tune and maintain. So that's why I'm going to feature this one, but these things will apply to any Nitro engine. So I think the first thing where people go wrong is they don't actually read the instructions. And don't get me wrong, if you watch lots of my videos you probably don't need to read the instructions, because my videos are a lot better than some Chinese translated instructions. However, it's important that you do your research before you start getting into this hobby. It is the kind of hobby where there's lots of technicalities, and if you go into it blind you're going to be making mistakes. So have a read through the manual, watch some videos, ask me some questions, and do your research before you purchase one of these things. And when it does arrive, make sure you read the manual or do some research, ask questions before you do things that you're not sure about. So the next mistake that I think people make is they touch things that don't need to be touched. So on your carburetor you have tuning needles, and the tuning needles mix the fuel going into your engine. These don't really need touching. Usually from the factory they are set up appropriately and correctly for the braking procedure. Lots of people, when they try to start the engine, it doesn't start and they start fiddling with things. And the trouble is, once you've messed up the tuning needles, you're not going to know what they were at before. So if you're going to touch them, make sure firstly that you need to touch them, and secondly make sure you make a note of what they were set at before, or at the very least make sure that you know the default engine settings before you start messing around with the carb needle settings. The main thing, the only thing you might need to do is richen out your high-speed needles slightly during the braking procedure, which is just going to give the engine a little bit more lubrication throughout its braking in phase, but even that normally the manufacturers will actually do for you. So let's just have a closer look at that so that it's something that you know to avoid. So this is the engine carburetor then I'm referring to. This is your high-speed needle, and on the other side of the carb barrel, just down in there, is your low-speed needle. Okay, so I won't go into what they do because all of those videos are on my channel, but we don't really want to be messing around with these unless we know that they need to be messed around with, or we know we can remember what setting it is set at the moment, or the default settings are written in your manual and then you can easily return it back. But we don't really want to be playing around with this unless we need to. Not until we've got a little bit more used to the car and know what we're doing with it. So the next thing people tend to do a lot then, which causes them problem, is they will flood the engine. So flooding means when you've put too much fuel into the carburetor. So whatever method of priming you're using, we don't want to be flooding the engine. It's better to have not enough fuel inside and then just need to prime it some more before it starts. If you flood the engine, the pull start will become very hard to pull. That's not going to be good because firstly the engine's not going to start, and secondly you might snap your pull starter because you're putting more strain on the very small string which isn't designed for that. So make sure you don't flood the engine. Now on the contrary, some people may not prime the engine enough. So this means that they forget to prime it completely, so the engine's not going to start because it doesn't have any fuel, or they may not prime it enough. And engines need three things to start, so they need fuel, they need air, and they need heat. Okay, so the fuel obviously comes from the tank, the air comes through the air filter into the carb, and the heat comes from your glow plug. So providing all those three components are in existence, then the engine will start. So we need to make sure we prime the engine appropriately. The next thing that I think beginners do is they pull the pull start too far. So these pull starts are different from the kind of pull starts you find on your two-stroke garden machinery. I think a lot of people are used to pulling a pull start on a garden strimmer or on a lawnmower, and it's very different. on those things we can pull the starter out a lot further. On these engines we don't need to do that, and these pull starts aren't designed for that. If we pull these pull starts all the way out to the end of their travel, they probably won't go back in again. The spring will snap, and then you'll be left with a dangling pull start that won't go back in, and then there'll be a big headache and you won't be able to start the car. So whenever we pull the starter, we just pull in short, quick bursts, okay? Just out this far. So that's about 8 inches, okay? So we just do short, quick bursts, and you see it's only coming out that far at a time. We don't want to be pulling it all the way, yeah? Just short, quick bursts. Oops. Now obviously if you're not running a pull start and you've chosen to use a drill start or an easy start or a box start, then obviously those things don't apply to you, okay? But if you're using a pull start, make sure that we only pull it out a little bit of the way. If it's not starting, pulling it out further is not going to help it start. The last mistake I think beginners make is they don't brake in their engine. Now engine braking is really important to ensure the longevity of your engine. Nitro engines, when you get them, they're new, they've never been run in, and therefore you need to make sure that you go through the heat cycle process, which we do by doing a run-in procedure. All the videos of that are on my channel. Make sure you follow that. Nitro RC cars are an investment, they're a lot of fun, they're a good hobby, and if you decide to sell the car, then you want to be able to say that the engine's in good condition. If you don't brake in the engine properly, it won't last, and it'll lose compression quickly, and it won't run properly. So make sure you follow the brake-in procedure, whether you follow my procedure that's on my channel, or you follow the manufacturer's procedure which is in your manual. Make sure you do some kind of braking in process. And finally, I'm going to talk about tuning. Make sure you tune the engine properly. There's lots and lots of videos on my channel. Again, a not tuned properly engine, especially if you're running it too lean, that means we're starving it from fuel. Make sure that we tune the engine properly. If we're running the engine too lean, it's going to damage the engine. Again, it's going to overheat, it's going to burn through glow plugs very quickly, and the engine's not going to run very well at all. And at the end of the day, it's certainly not going to last. The final point I'm going to make is don't panic. I think a lot of beginners panic. They get the car, it won't start or something goes wrong, and they panic. Don't panic. It's good fun. This hobby's meant to be fun. It's not meant to be stressful. We want you to enjoy it. So if you're having an issue with the car, just take a step back, work out what the problem is, send me a message or whatever you want to do, and don't worry, it will start in the end. I remember when I was very new to the hobby, it seemed very daunting. I used to get myself very worried and stressed and upset when things weren't happening as they should be. But at the end of the day, it's a hobby, and part of this hobby, especially with Nitro, is about fixing and having these problems and overcoming them. And as I said in a video a couple of weeks ago, if you're not up for that kind of commitment, then I would probably go for an electric one, because these cars, they're absolutely awesome, but a massive part of the hobby is the maintenance, having problems with them, working out the problems and fixing them, upgrading them, that all goes with it. So I hope this video has been of some use to you. I hope you take note of these steps and follow them when you get your first Nitro RC car. If you have any questions, please feel free to pop them down in the comment section below. Remember to like my Facebook page, search the RC Biker, and you can send me videos on there of any problems you're experiencing with your RC cars. And if you'd like to purchase anything for the channel from the Amazon wishlist, you'll find a link to that one down in the description below and in the comments section as well. So hope this has been helpful. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.